Good morning, boys and girls. By way of an introductory book today, although it's not really introductory, it can be introductory, but in addition to that, it will stays with you for a lifetime, is this beautiful little treasure called Living and Dying with Grace, the Counsels of Hadrat Ali. This book is quite short, quite full, quite rich, or wealthy with knowledge and insight and counsel. It's hard to recommend this book enough. For those of you who don't know, let me read a little bit about Hadrat Ali. Hadrat, the presence, Ali, who lived from 598 to 661 of the Common Era, was one of the greatest savants and leaders of early modern history. Artist and scholar, warrior and statesman, husband and father, Hadrat Ali is a traditional model for chivalry, learning, and devotion. For those of you who don't know, he was the cousin and I believe the son-in-law of Muhammad. And I'll leave the history there. Let me just read a little plug on the inside jacket of the book. It says it probably better than I can. Living and Dying with Grace is a book of aphoristic Sufi teachings on how to make one's way in the world, especially on how to bring spiritual insight to the affairs of daily life. Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam, contains a vast body of knowledge concerning the inner development of the complete human being. And this can't be emphasized enough. Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam, contains a vast body of knowledge concerning the inner development of the complete human being. Among the greatest of Sufi masters, Hadrat Ali, cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, is regarded as a paragon of compassion and virtue and master of both exoteric and esoteric knowledge. He was not only a great warrior, statesman, and scholar, but a devoted husband and father. This book contains 400 of Hadrat Ali's teachings, showing how people can use the everyday realities of their lives to cultivate wisdom and well-being, both temporal and eternal, offering a path to living and dying with grace. And the book delivers as it promises. If I may, I want to read one excerpt, which I've always found very useful, although it may take some time to be with it before it yields its gifts. But here we go. Once when he heard someone finding fault with the world, Hadrat Ali said, "O you who revile the world, blinded by its deceit, duped by its falsehood, do you rebuke the world after having been deluded by it? Are you accusing it, or is it accusing you?" I love that. Are you accusing it, or is it accusing you? When did it seduce you? When did it beguile you? Was it by the battlegrounds where your fathers wrought, or the couches of your mothers under the ground? How much have you been kept busy seeing to their needs, and how much have you personally nursed them in illness? You seek a remedy for them and consult doctors for them. On the morrow, your treatment will fail to benefit them, your lament of no use to them, your solicitude of no avail to any of them. Your wish has not been granted, and your power cannot defend them. The world has given you thereby an example of what will happen to you, showing you your death by means of the death of another. In fact, the world is an abode of truth for one who is truthful with it, and an abode of well-being for one who understands it. It is an abode of riches for one who learns from it, an abode of counsel for one who takes a warning from it. It is the house of worship for those who love God, the place of prayer of God's angels, the place of descent of God's inspiration, and the place of business of God's saints. Therein is mercy earned, and therein is paradise gained. So who reviles it when it has already announced its departure and declared it would leave? It has announced its own death and that of its people. By its trials, it's given them an example of tribulation, and by its pleasures filled them with longing for pleasure. It started out with well-being and created misfortune, awakening desires and fears, causing alarm and alert. So some people revile it on a morning of remorse, while others will praise it on the day of resurrection. For the world reminded them, and they bore it in mind. And it spoke to them, and they verified what it said. And it cautioned them, and they took the warning. Spend some time with that passage, and you will not have wasted any time. In fact, the world is an abode of truth for one who is truthful with it. And are you reviling it, or is it reviling you? At any rate, this book, you got a little taste of it. It's for a certain kind of person, the seeker of wisdom. One of the interesting things about life is that I remember in the 60s, the idea of reading a book from the 30s or the 20s just seemed like, oh, well, that's impossibly outdated. You know, it's like, what? Maybe it might be a little bit interesting, but there's nothing really there for the modern man. And as you get older, time collapses. And now the idea of a book that was published in, say, this was published in 1995, seems like yesterday. So bear that in mind too. Living and Dying with Grace, The Counsels of Hadrat Ali, selected and translated by Thomas Clary, who was a genius at language and mathematics, by the way. And so one of his specialties was also Arabic. All right. What have you learned?
I have learned, I have learned that if I have to start something, it's better to just start as soon as possible, without waiting for a perfect time and procrastinating for that. Because as I start on things, I see that I fail, and every failure is a new data point that I can use to do better the next time, which I would have missed out on if I would have kept on waiting for a better time or for a perfect time to start on.
Very good. Very, very good. I think it's a common experience for meditators to, get everything set up, right? They get their carpet and their candle and their incense and their puja, and they put on their meditation clothes, and they put on their yoga pants or whatever, and they get everything all set up, and then they get ready to meditate, and it all goes to hell. No, that's a very good thing to learn. That's a very good thing to learn.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's often getting momentum is the hard part. So best to get started and just keep going, and as you say, gather data points.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay.
Sometimes I do, yeah, sometimes I do feel that it might be okay to postpone if I am not prepared for it. But even that can be recognized only once I start on it, and then I can see that I'm not prepared for it.
That too. Good. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do have questions from Avatamsaka.
Okay. And by the way, there's a beautiful series being published on YouTube as we speak. It's being read beautifully, I might say. And it's got nice nature backgrounds, and it's very nice for contemplation if you don't have the book with you, or you just say you're traveling or something like that, or you're just at home and you just want to drop into a meditative state. It's very nice, very, very nice. So people should take advantage of it. The the cover of the thumbnail looks like the original cover of this book. It has a beautiful golden Buddha on it, right? And this is it. The Avatamsaka Sutra, the Flower Ornament Scripture, translated in the 1980s by Thomas Clary. Okay. What questions? What page? Do we have a
Yeah, so
page?
this is from page, yeah, this is from page 282, book 9, Awakening by Light.
Okay, Awakening by
Uh,
Light. Just the title is nice. To what again?
282.
Okay, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to read the books that have been already read. The titles may be suggestive. The first book or chapter is called The Wonderful Adornments of Leaders of the World. The second is called The Appearance of the Buddha. The third is The Meditation of the Enlightening Being Universally Good, who, by the way, is also known as Samantabhadra. And then 4 is The Formation of the Worlds, which is gorgeous. The Flower Bank World, which is also gorgeous. Varakana. Then we get to number 7, The Names of the Buddha. And then number 8, a very short chapter or book called The Four Holy Truths. And then we get to 9, Awakening by Light. Beautiful title. Okay. 282, right?
Yeah,
All right.
and my question is from the first paragraph. Uh, so in this paragraph, they talk about like 100 billion Buddhas passing away.
Yes.
Um,
Why
so
don't you
I
read
so
the
I
first? Why
was
don't you just read the first paragraph so people have some idea what we're speaking of, and then I want to make a comment
okay.
about it.
Okay, sure. So yeah, this is book 9, Awakening by Light. Then the Buddha, from beneath the wheel marks on his feet, emitted 100 billion light beams, illuminating this billion-world universe with its 400 billion continents, 100 billion oceans, 100 billion surrounding mountain ranges, 100 billion enlightened beings being born, 100 billion enlightened beings leaving home, 100 billion Buddhas realizing true enlightenment, 100 billion Buddhas teaching, 100 billion Buddhas passing away, 100 billion polar mountain kings, 100 billion heavens of hosts of celestial kings, 100 billion heavens of 33 celestial realms, 100 billion heavens of time devotion, 100 billion heavens of satisfaction, 100 billion heavens of enjoyment of emanations, 100 billion heavens of free enjoyment of others' emanations, 100 billion heavens of pure hosts, 100 billion light sound heavens, 100 billion heavens of purity, 100 billion heavens of vast rewards, 100 billion heavens of the ultimate of form. Everything therein was all clearly manifest.
Let me read one more sentence. As in this place, the Buddha. As in this place, the Buddha, the world-honored one, was seen sitting on a lotus bank lion throne, surrounded by as many enlightening beings as atoms in 10 Buddha lands. so also sat the 100 billion Buddhas, 100 billion continents. And in each case, because of the spiritual force of the Buddha, in each of the 10 directions was a great enlightening being, each with a company of as many enlightening beings as atoms in 10 Buddha lands who came to the Buddha. Okay, so the point I wanted to make is that in the 2nd century, we had a different model of the universe. And although by intuition and by direct perception, these savants understood the unspeakable number of stars and worlds and planets and so on and so forth that we describe scientifically now as a routine matter, they had to describe these astronomical numbers and these unspeakably large numbers in a manner that would convey it to the folks of the time without using the things that we take for granted today, like an expanding universe, right? Now we have so in other words, they were ahead of the science, but they didn't use the terminology of contemporary science. So things were obvious by direct perception, but describing them in those days was tricky, right? Trickier.
Mm-hmm.
We did not know that there was, what is it? We have billions of stars, many billions, 100 billion, I think, stars in our Milky Way galaxy. That's one galaxy. But then we have an almost, or maybe not almost, the same number or more of galaxies, each of which has the same number of stars. It's not easy to wrap one's head about. You could spend a lifetime just gradually trying to accustom yourself to the scale of what we're talking about. All right, so that's my point, basically, that in different times they use different ways of communicating things that we would do slightly differently today. I don't know that we'd be more effective in terms of getting people to truly grok it, but I just note that. Okay, so what questions?
Yeah, my question was, I think I kind of don't really understand maybe what do they mean by Buddha. So like so far in the book, they've talked about Buddha body being being basically a true reality. And when an enlightened being attains enlightenment, then they become Buddha. But then here they also say that 100 billion Buddhas passing away. So that I don't understand it once there's a
Well,
Buddha.
okay, so Buddha refers to one Buddha, variously depending on the context. It can refer to one Buddha as in Shakyamuni Buddha, right? Or the historical Buddha that we refer to. It could refer to single Buddhas before that Buddha. I think now we're realizing that history is much older than what we thought, and probably goes back at least 10,000 years, not 5,000 years or whatever we thought it was, and maybe more than that. And so they understood that Buddhas appear in the world periodically, right? And I might add that Jesus would be considered a Buddha, right? Now, so in this world, remember they saw this cycle of the turning of the wheel of the teaching, and so every age would have its Buddha, right? And so Buddha both refers to the individual historical Buddha that we think of, the Shakyamuni Buddha, but it refers to all the Buddhas in the lineage of Buddhas, but it also refers to a cosmic principle Buddha. So the Buddha is reality, right? Buddha is everything there is. Buddha, the body of Buddha is the cosmos. And so, and those are just some of the different meanings of Buddha in this context, in the context of a text like this.
Okay, so they also use Buddha to refer to manifest forms of Buddha in human, like in
Yeah,
human
in this
species
case,
as
yes,
well.
they're talking about Buddhas passing away. So that would mean that they're referring to the body the physical body, or what we would call the physical body of Buddha. It's like Christ
Got it.
consciousness. Okay, so Christ represents God. He represents Jesus, the man, the one that was crucified. He represents the principle of God. And since God is everywhere and God is everything, that principle of Christ consciousness becomes broader and broader and broader depending on your level of understanding. Is that making sense? So
Yeah,
so it
makes
is with Buddha.
sense.
So Buddha means different things depending on the context. But if they're talking about the Buddha's passing away, they're talking about the body passing away, the way Jesus' body passed away. Right.
Got it. Cool. My next question is from page 295, the same chapter.
Okay.
This is from this fifth verse on this chapter. Living beings are helpless, wrapped up in sickness,
All right. So let's
forever
read.
sunk in
Okay, go ahead.
forever sunk in evil ways, producing the three poisons, the fierce flames of a great fire, always burning them with a pure heart to rescue them. This is the
No,
practice.
this is the practice. It's in italics. This is the
This is
practice.
the practice.
Okay, so let me read the paragraph before and the paragraph after. Sentient beings attached to self enter birth and death. Looking for a limit to this, none can be found. Serving all the enlightened to obtain the wondrous teachings, explain it to others. This is the practice. This is the practice. The practice. Living beings are helpless, wrapped up in sickness, forever sunk in evil ways, producing the three poisons, the fierce flames of great fire always burning them, with a pure heart to rescue them. This is the practice. Sentient beings, confused, have lost the right path, always going the wrong way. They enter the house of darkness. For the sake of lighting for their sake, lighting the lamp of truth, to be a light forever. This is the practice. Okay, so what's the question?
Yeah, I have two questions from these verses. The first one is when it says sentient beings attached to self enter birth and death. It sounds like they're saying that sentient beings once they're attached to self, then the birth happens because they say enter birth. So are they talking in terms of souls kind of concept or
Yeah, sort of
or
ish.
something else?
Something like that. Something like that.
Okay. Because so far they have always kind of they have tried to stay away from the concept of reincarnation or trans or like soul migration kind of thing. So
No, I don't
I
know that they've
wonder
stayed
why,
away. They haven't stayed away from it, have they?
and they have said transmigration as like a bad thing in the book before.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. Okay, so this is the problem. Depending on people's level of understanding, there is migration or transmigration because those folks believe in places and times. Once you go further in understanding, there's one place and one time, or no place and no time. And so how can you talk about transmigration from one no place to another no place or another no time? You see, so it's very nuanced, and this was a question that preoccupied me in the beginning, uh, especially when I had access to the closer access to the Dalai Lama, and it depends on one's level of overall understanding how these things are described.
Hmm.
I mean, would a Christian say that Jesus is dead? No, a Christian would say that Christ is always and everywhere.
Hmm.
But if you're in
Hmm.
Sunday school They might say that he died and was, arose from the dead 3 days afterwards. But with this, at this level of understanding, there's no death, there's no birth, because those realities aren't the same as the ultimate reality or the realm of reality. That's just how things appear. Those are appearances. And so here they're just drawing the correlation that if you become a human being on this earth, you have entered birth and you will enter death, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah.
But at another level, that's not the case. You're neither born nor die. That's just part of the parcel for this existence. Okay?
Yep, got it. And then my second question was, when they said, like for living beings, forever sunk in evil ways, producing the three poisons, but they haven't talked about the three poisons yet. So,
well, did you check
was
the
wondering
glossary? Did you check the glossary?
No, I didn't check the glossary yet for this one.
Yeah, you got to check the glossary at all these. It may not be there, but it may be there.
Okay.
Craving, hatred, and folly. Those are the usual ones. Craving, hatred, and folly. Yeah, always check the glossary. And also, after a certain point, you should go back and try and read the introduction.
Okay.
Yeah, anything written by Clary about the text you should focus on also. But, read through it once and then go back. All right, now.
Yep.
So that, the three poisons, probably something like that.
Got it. Then my next question is from page 299. This is book 10. An enlightening being asks for clarification.
Ah, good. Beautiful. All right.
Yeah, this is from the third last verse in this.
Eye,
Like
ear, nose, tongue, body,
verses.
mind, intellect, the faculties of sense, all are void and essenceless. The deluded mind conceives them to exist. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, boy, that's like a condensation of Buddhist teaching right there. All right, go ahead. It's like the Heart Sutra in 4 lines.
Yeah.
Did you ever read
So this one-
Did you ever get to the Heart Sutra?
No, not yet.
Yeah, you should do that. It's short and to the point, but go ahead.
Yeah, so in this one, they are saying everything is void and essenceless. Essenceless.
Right.
Yeah, this one, I don't, like if I,
Go up 2 verses. Why don't you read why don't you go up to the top of the verses and read the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 first verses.
okay. So start from the first one, the
Or
benevolent
I tell you
one.
what, you could just read them all. Let's go. Benevolent one, you ask the meaning of this.
Yeah,
Read slowly and
benevolent
clearly.
one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Benevolent one, you ask the meaning of this to awaken all the ignorant. I will answer according to the essence. Listen clearly, benevolent one. Phenomena have no function and have no individual nature. Therefore, all of them do not know one another. Like the waters in a river, their rushing flow races past, each unaware of the others. So it is with all things. It's also like a mass of fire. Blazing flames shoot up at once, each not knowing the others. Phenomena are also thus. also like a continuous wind, fanning and drumming whatever it hits, each unaware of the other. So also are all things, also like the various levels of earth, each based on another, yet unaware of the others. Thus are all phenomena. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, intellect, the faculties of sense. By these one always revolves, yet there is no one, nothing that revolves. The nature of things is fundamentally birthless, yet they appear to have birth. Herein there is no revealer, and nothing that's revealed. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, intellect, the faculties of sense, all are void and essenceless. The deluded mind conceives them to exist. Seen as they truly are, all are without inherent nature. The eye of reality is not conceptual. This seeing is not false, real or unreal, false or not false, mundane or transmundane. There's nothing but descriptions.
Good. By the way, people may want to watch this or listen to it with captions on, because then they get the beauty of the text as well. And it's useful to have both the eye and the ear involved. Okay, go ahead. What's the question?
Yeah, so it says all are void and essenceless, and that a deluded mind conceives them to exist.
Correct.
So if I look at like my experience, it's the senses that are coming through eye, ear, nose, tongue, body. So how can the mind fabricate something that doesn't exist?
Let's go to your experiences 7 years ago. What can you say about those experiences for sure? Take an experience from 7 years ago.
From that time, yeah, there were like things happening, and I had sense organs at that time who were with which I was perceiving and
Okay.
having an
So
experience.
now where has that gone? Where has that experience gone?
It's in the memory now.
And where is the memory?
The memory is stored somewhere. I don't know where,
Right. You
but
don't.
it's stored
You
somewhere.
don't. Now, the experience you're having now, where is that stored?
It's also gonna be stored as a memory somewhere.
But you don't know what the memory is. And
I know
neuroscientists
that
don't really
the
know where it is either. We have some crude correlates in the hippocampus, but we can't find a place in here where, I mean, there's some there's some correlates of sense that we can find here in the brain. Like we can see changes in the occipital cortex if we shine lights in the eyes, or we can find changes in the auditory cortex if we put sound in the ear, etc. But where that all ends up, we don't have any idea. And what we tend to do is we tend to use the computer as our model, right? We say, well, it's being written to a hard drive somewhere, and then we access it. We access the hard drive somehow. But that's just a metaphor. So okay, let's use this example. You fall asleep and you dream you've fallen off a boat in a lake, but you swim to shore, and there you find a duck
Mhm.
saying quack quack.
Mhm.
Does the duck know the boat?
Does the duck know the boat?
Does the duck know anything about a boat? Did the duck see a boat?
So that's a dream happening
Correct.
through the mental fabrication.
Correct. Now, what's the difference between a dream and what's happening right now?
So in the dream, so let's say in the dream, I can also have smell and taste and see,
Can the
but
duck have
those
smell, taste,
things
and see?
in the dream, it's a construct that my mind created. So I
Okay.
don't.
All right. So go ahead. So in a dream, you can smell, taste, and hear. Go ahead.
Yes, in the dream I can do that, but then the experience comes still from the memory. Like if I had never tasted something, I would not be able to have a dream of it or the experience of it, like exactly like that.
No, you'd have another experience,
Yeah, something else,
but you'd have
based
another
on again
experience.
from the yeah from memory or something like or some randomness.
How would you know if it was
So it
correct?
seems.
So let's say you go to sleep and you dream of cinnamon.
Mhm,
I go to sleep and I dream of cinnamon. Are we
mhm.
experiencing the same thing?
We, I mean, it depends on our experience, which would be likely different. So we
So
probably
there's a
not.
sensation that, for now, we just call cinnamon, right?
Hmm.
But cinnamon is just a description we give to that sensation.
Hmm.
Where's the sensation located? I mean, you might say, okay, there's the taste buds, right? Okay, then let's go to the taste buds.
Hmm.
And then we find some proteins, right? And these proteins
Hmm.
seem to change configuration depending on whether we're tasting cinnamon or vinegar or salt, right?
Hmm.
But changing the shape of a protein is not tasting. It's just
Hmm.
a description of tasting, just like we try and describe the taste of salt as something that's, I don't know, like ocean water or something. We just, these are just descriptions. And all of what we call reality is that, just descriptions. I mean, you know that, let me see how I'm going to do this. We can describe, let's say, reflected light, reflected green light going through the eyeball, hitting the cones, right? And
Hmm.
creating some changes in the rhodopsin, or I forget what the exact protein it is. And then these go through the optic nerve, then they get to the visual cortex, and then they come to the frontal cortex. Let's just say that. All right?
Hmm.
But where is the seeing part? Where is the experience?
So that's similar to how someone can see a movie on the screen. So in this, so
Or
that is coming
an
from
electric car
projector.
sees a electric car, self-driving car sees a stop sign. Where's the
Yeah.
experience?
So there's a picture, and through that picture, there's a program that analyzes and triggers and does the needful.
So where's the experience?
So for experience, there
Can a
needs
machine
to be
have
a
experience? Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, for experience, there needs to be an experiencer who can experience.
Does there? How would you know if there's
Like
just experience? An experiencer is also just a description. What
no, that
happens
is
to
definitely
experience if you what happens to experience if you do not separate object and subject?
then it because it's a part of a total experience. Both are part of the experience itself.
Correct. Exactly. Good. So prove to me that there's an experiencer and prove to me that the object and subject are two different things in reality.
So let's take an example of that double slit experiment, where they pass the photons, and then the photon changes positions based on the observer.
Does it change positions or does it change positions or does it just go the way it's going to go anyway? So think about this. We have a probability distribution of where the particle is going to go, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And but is there really a probability distribution, or does this thing just go where it's going to go? And those other probabilities are just things that we use to describe in our own mind something else, a probability, but there's no probability. If once it happens, it happens. That's it. There's 100% probability that it ends up where it is. But go ahead, use your example. Go ahead. Although it's
So
a little
it's
bit,
like
that's a little
so
bit
like
tricky because now we're getting into quantum mechanics. But okay, let's do it.
yeah, it's like a coin toss. So when I
Okay,
flip a coin, it can come head or tails, and
can it?
we describe it as a probability.
We describe it as a probability, but it only goes heads or tails. There's one reality. There's one reality. You throw the coin up and it ends up heads.
Hmm.
Now, in quantum mechanics, they say, well, there's a superposition where it's sometimes heads, sometimes tails. Schrödinger's cat is sometimes alive, sometimes dead. But that's just our thinking about it. The reality is the cat's either alive or the cat's dead. The coin is either heads or it's tails. And then we add the descriptor, oh, well, half the time we do this, it comes up tails. And so that whole
Hmm.
probability thing is just something our mind created around the reality that we observe.
Is it?
I mean, I'm not saying it's not useful. I'm
Is
not saying
it?
it's not a valid way to look at things. Scientifically, it most certainly is. But does it describe something that real, or does it just describe our mental processing of something that happens?
Isn't that like reality taking a certain path based on the conditions present
Very
at that
good.
time?
Yes, very good. Exactly. So if you take David Deutsch's many worlds interpretation, right, where every time there's a quantum fork, I don't know how he deals with this particularly, but there's a different reality. There's one reality in which there's tails, and there's one reality where there's heads, right? There's
Hmm.
one reality in which the Schrödinger's cat lives, and one reality where it dies. Now, wouldn't each one of those realities require a different universe?
I mean, if since reality picks one path at a time, then there'll be one universe.
One
The other
universe
will
that has a
not
live
get.
cat, and one universe that has a dead cat. By the way, no cats are harmed in this thought experiment. By the way, so so so, and which reality are you in? You're just in one. You can't be in, not in your corporeal, in your bodily form. You can't be in more than one universe, or can you?
Mhm. I mean, my experience is that of a single body right now.
What's the difference between your experience and the universe?
So universe contains more than me,
No,
contains
you
a
contain the
lot more
universe.
people.
You contain the universe, not the other way around.
So
You would have
there's a
to. You
my
would have to.
universe.
You would have to.
It's like my reality was a shared reality.
Okay, just kick it up a level of abstraction. Okay, does space exist inside you, or do you exist inside space?
Both.
Right, depending on what level of abstraction. But there cannot be a
Hmm.
universe without you to experience it.
So when I'll die, after that, when my body will be gone, this universe will still exist.
No, it won't. Or maybe, I mean, you need to decide for yourself whether it will or it won't. But why do you say that? No one will ever experience what you experienced that we know of. No one will ever feel what you felt. No one will ever experience. So let's say there's a tribe of people, and they don't believe in galaxies, and they believe that the
Hmm.
stars in the sky are just the stars in the sky, and that's a finite number.
Hmm.
So their universe is different than ours. Or let's say
But then
there's
that's
people that so you got to understand that universes are subjective.
but that's interpretation. Like there's an objective universe, and then there's like subjective universe.
Is there? What's the difference between the two?
So objective is like let's say there's a sky, there are like stars in the sky, everyone sees the stars in the sky. The tribal people who don't know, like the modern science, they think that's the only thing there is, and that's their interpretation of the universe. But then the scientists, when they see that, they think, okay, there's a bigger universe than that. So
Would
that's
you agree
still
that there's some
interpretation
people?
of it.
I don't want to get silly, but let's. Would you agree there's some people who thinks that the Earth is flat?
Yeah, there are.
What
Yeah,
kind of universe do they live in?
they
Live in a universe where
again
the
they
Earth
have
is
their own.
flat, right?
Yeah, they
All
have their
right.
own
The best
interpretation of the
scientific minds,
universe.
and the best philosophical minds believed for the longest time that the Earth was surrounded by this shell, and there's little holes in it where the light of came through. There were no stars. There was just light coming through these little holes poked in the black envelope. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So what universe did they live in?
Again, they had their different subjective
Okay,
universes.
so then how do you know that what you're describing now, what we're describing now is just a very primitive is not just a very primitive notion of what the universe is actually. And then in fact it's beyond even quantum mechanics. And it's beyond physicality. I mean, it's how do we know that we're not primitive compared to people like
I mean,
2000 years from now?
yeah, that's definitely possible.
Okay, in
But
that case,
whatever
how
we
can you say
know,
the universe is objective and it's not subjective?
but
Where does the objective, okay, without subjectivity, where is that universe? That's another way of asking it.
so when I say objective universe, what I mean is there's something that is creating this subjective universes in everyone.
That's you. Okay, so now if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound?
Theoretically, it should make a sound.
I
It
didn't
is
ask theoretically. Does it make a sound?
I mean, no one can hear it. So
No,
with
someone can
that,
hear it. Someone can hear it. If they hear it, there's a sound. If they don't hear it, there's not
yeah.
a sound. There has to be ears to hear it for there to be sound. Otherwise, there's no
Hmm.
sound. Now, which one is it? Does it make a sound or not make a sound? It depends on the observer.
Hmm.
So now, admittedly, we're getting into some deep waters here. This is a step beyond non-duality, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's not too early for you to start thinking about what is the actual nature of this universe. Is it more like a, a tree house that we build from wood, and it's not tree house. Let's see, the pyramids that are made from rock and they last, I don't know, let's say 100,000 years, or is it more like a dream? And there are
Hmm.
things that we consensually agree. We agree they exist, but I've been with peoples. As a matter of fact, I was with some Yaqui Indians, and there were things they just didn't see. They decided they didn't see them, and they didn't see them.
Hmm.
There are peoples that don't use clock time. There are peoples that sing geographic boundaries. So all I'm trying to point out to you is we mustn't be so arrogant as to think that we're the only ones who have a universe.
Hmm. Yeah. Or even what we know is even
Or that what we know
even
is a final
remotely close
thought.
to
On
universe.
the other hand, there are some perennial truths that certainly appear to be true, both to experience and they're not falsifiable, which is that this world is like a dream. And if we use dreams as the aid that they're meant to be, we'll find that the objects in dreams do not know each other any more than the what was they talked about flames of a fire, right? And these different flames don't know each
Hmm.
other. Or they talked about water and the different currents don't know each other.
Hmm.
And so all phenomena are like this. Does your phenomenon of 7 years ago, does it know you today?
Hmm.
Now, I'm not telling you what the answer is. What I'm trying to do is set it up to where you can think about it and make up your own mind.
Hmm.
So, can the object exist without a subject?
No, yeah.
Okay, and you say there's an objective universe that's independent of the subjective.
Mhm.
Why do you say that? Just out of convention?
No, I mean, an
It,
object cannot exist without a subject, in my experience. But objectively, there could be objects when no one is observing them.
what are they made of?
It's like they're like remote planets that we haven't yet gone to,
What are those made
but those
of?
planets exist.
What are those made of?
At least,
We
so
can
I
do
don't know much on
spectrographic
the science.
analysis, and we can do spectrographic analysis and say, oh, this one has a peak and it's probably iron, and this one looks like sulfur, or those, whatever. We can, but these are all descriptions. Just like this experience right here, you cannot grab this experience. You cannot, the experience that you're having this moment, you can't grab it. There's nothing to grab.
Mhm.
You can't hold on to an experience. You can't, and you're asking yourself the question, well, do objects exist without subjects? Or another question is, what's the difference between the observed and the observer?
Mhm.
Because the space that you perceive must be within your mind. Think about it. How could it be otherwise?
I think it's the question whether everything is in the mind or is mind perceiving everything.
So there's this mind that just floats around among the objects. Is that what you're telling me? Or a mind that floats around through time?
I mean, I don't know where the mind is.
Well, we know that the mind of 7 years ago is no longer here, and you can't grab it.
Yeah.
We know that this mind, 7 years hence, will not be there either. But there will
Mhm.
be descriptions, experiences. The things
Yeah.
that you tend to experience are different. Yeah, just period, are different.
Mhm.
I experienced someone behind you looking into the screen, but you didn't experience that,
Mhm.
right? But now that I've told you about it, you may wonder, well, who was behind me looking at the screen? Now you might. Okay,
Mhm.
again, I'm not trying to give any. There's the opposite of the effect I'm trying to achieve is dogma. I'm not trying to state something
Mhm.
dogmatically, but you asked about this sutra, and this sutra is been around quite a while, and it also
Mhm.
has and it is in concordance with our current understanding of reality through an idealist lens, right?
Mhm.
And idealism at the moment appears a lot more likely, to my mind anyway, than materialism per se, right?
Mhm.
There's still the problem though of,
Mhm.
of the consensual validation of the reality. I mean, we both see pyramids there, right?
Mhm.
So all of these need to be worked through on your part to gain understanding. But you can't do it by quoting
Mhm.
authority. You have to think about it yourself. Like say, where if
Mhm.
does space exist outside my mind, or does my mind exist inside space? I'm sorry, does space exist inside my mind?
I mean, it does.
Yeah. How does it fit? I mean, that's a silly question, but these are
But
the kinds of thoughts that you just have to work your way through. Space obviously must
I mean,
exist
then,
within your mind,
Mhm.
and so do the pyramids, but not
But
really.
then it,
Okay,
yeah, I mean,
I'm going to say the second tallest pyramid in Egypt, right? No, let me say that cat
Mhm.
sculpture, that the Negroid uh, sculpture. I think they changed it into a cat or something. I don't know what it is. The face with the Negroid features.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, we both have an image of that.
Mm-hmm.
How's that possible?
Because my image is coming from a memory.
All right? And it's in your mind by definition, right?
B- because yeah, because mind it has
All right.
access to
So
memory.
if you go to Egypt and you see that sculpture, where does the recognition occur?
Uh, Processing happens in the brain and yeah, in the mind.
Yeah, but see, people keep giving these attributes to the brain, but we don't have the science to back that up. If anything, the science doesn't back it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, this is going to be confusing. I'm jumping down, I'm going through a lot of different levels. But let's just say these are open questions, right? So let's get back to the
Mm-hmm.
Avatamsaka and see what was your questions precisely. I'm afraid that I've gotten off into too much
No,
esoteric.
it's the same question because now from now on they keep on referring to this again and again. Like all elements are unreal, all actions are unreal, all consequences are unreal. So it's giving me like a problem.
They're
It's
unreal. Okay,
understanding.
good. They're unreal in the sense that they don't exist the way we think they exist. That's all.
Mhm.
So you could still say they're
They're
real,
saying
but they're imaginarily real. All we have is
they are
descriptions.
so like they do mention description, but they also say like dreams. So they even go to that extent saying it's like
It
dreams.
is like dreams. It's very much like dreams, created by the mind. So let's take the pyramid and let's look at it with the microscope. Is there any pyramid in that thing when we looked at it through the microscope?
Not in the
There's no
microscope.
essence of pyramid. Now let's look at it from outer space. They look like little bumps or
Hmm.
something. Is there a pyramid in that?
Hmm.
No. The pyramidness exists at a certain level of scale, and it doesn't exist at other levels. Somebody made a comment. They got on me because they said randomness is the only thing that exists in the universe is randomness. But see, they missed the point. The point is that depending on the scale at which you observe randomness, if you observe it with enough granularity, there's no randomness at all.
Yeah, randomness can be seen as order at another level.
Right. So these are descriptions that the mind tacks onto what we perceive as the outside world.
Hmm.
But in a dream, is there an outside world?
No, dream is all the activity seems to be happening in the mind.
The kingdom of God is within you. Now,
Hmm.
I'm not saying that there aren't mysteries here. There are. But I think we have to get our psychology straight, our neurobiology straight, and our physics straight before we can go making pronouncements about, well, this is real and I know it's real in an absolute sense.
Hmm.
The only thing that even appears to be real is this present instant.
Hmm.
And so it's this struggle, this struggle that that is the work of seekers of truth or philosophers, lovers of wisdom. And so that's the work you have in front of you, like everybody else,
Hmm.
in a way of speaking.
Hmm.
Now, you've been preoccupied with an afterlife. Let me ask you where you think that might exist. Not seriously, just as a rhetorical question.
Hmm.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm sorry if I've not been clear. It's difficult to be clear about these because there's in order to communicate, you have to have some basis of starting assumptions. And so we're talking provisionally and absolute in a way. But as far as I can see, it's just descriptions. What may help for you a bit. Have you spent any time with the work of Donald Hoffman?
I seen one of his videos where he talked about like things driven by the need to survive and those things.
Right, but okay, but let me see if I can summarize it. In artificial reality or in a video game, is there really cars and people and roads there?
No, it's a fabrication.
Where does the fabrication take place? Not in the computer, obviously. Computers don't know cars and roads and streetwalkers, etc.
Hmm. But computers can draw, and then our mind can interpret that as and match the description that we have for cars and stuff like that from memory.
Okay. Just keep going in either direction in that and it'll help.
Got it.
All right?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we stop?
I think yeah, that's the main thing that I am
Yeah,
now
well, that's a big one, right? And that's
interested
the
in.
Heart Sutra, and that's a tough one, I know, because I struggled with it for a long time. But yeah. Also, meditation's good here. When you separate the universe of sound from the universe of sight, from the universe of smell, or from the universe of tactile sensation, we tend to glue them all together. And it took me the longest time to figure out, why did the Buddhists separate them like that? Why do they talk about these different consciousnesses? It's because there's no inherent reason to put them all together
Hmm.
at the level of seeking truth. Okay, sir?
Yeah.
So keep going, work on these things. That's what the sutra is about too, by the way. Now the sutra will help you. The more you read it, it'll give you to come at this angle and that angle, and it'll repeat it over and over, in different ways, and then it'll put it in colors, and it'll put it in sounds and scents and all kinds of things. It's a sophisticated piece of work, but there's a certain amount of work that you must do yourself. Because
Hmm.
certainly do not take my word for it. God, that would be terrible.
Hmm.
All right, sir?
Hmm. Yeah.
And guard your
Yeah.
mind out there. Keep working. It's going to be hard
Mm.
under your circumstances, but keep going. Adios.
Well, thank you.
Take care.